HOA, they spent $900,000 building their dream clubhouse. Marble floors, a pool, a private bar. The whole HOA celebrated for months. There was just one problem: they built it on my land. And when I finally walked in holding the deed, the party stopped, the room went silent, and their little empire started crumbling. This might be your last chance to subscribe to HOA Breakpoints before you miss the next story. Because if you think this was crazy, you haven't seen what's coming next. Hit subscribe now before the next homeowner discovers just how far an HOA can go. My name's Daniel, and 3 years ago, I inherited 2 acres of land from my grandfather. It sat at the edge of a gated community called Brookline Estates, undeveloped, quiet, mostly trees. I never built on it right away. I was saving up, planning, taking my time. The Homeowners Association, run by a woman named Carol Whitfield, had been eyeing that empty lot for years. To them, it wasn't my grandfather's land. It was unused community space. They'd sent me a few letters asking if I'd be willing to donate it for a future clubhouse. I said no. Politely, but firmly no. I figured that was the end of it. I was wrong. Because HOA boards like Carol's don't hear no. They hear not yet. And while I was busy with work, travel, and life, they were busy with something else entirely. Paperwork, permits, and a plan that would eventually blow up in their faces. 8 months later, I got a call from a neighbor. "Hey, did you know they're building something on your land?" I laughed. I thought she was joking. She wasn't. I drove out that weekend and found survey stakes, orange flags, and a construction crew clearing my trees on my property. I called the HOA office immediately. Carol answered like this was the most normal thing in the world. "Oh, that's the new clubhouse property. The board voted on it last spring." "Voted on what?" "That's not HOA land, that's mine." She paused, then said the sentence that would haunt her for the rest of this story. "According to our internal records, that parcel was designated common area years ago." Internal records. Not a deed, not a title. Internal records. That's when I knew this wasn't a misunderstanding. This was a land grab. I sent Carol copies of my grandfather's original deed the same day. No response. A week later, I got a certified letter, not an apology, but a notice of construction continuation, stating the board had legal counsel confirming the land was properly annexed into HOA, common property, back in 2015. Except my grandfather didn't pass that land down until 2021. I called their lawyer directly. He was polite but firm. "Sir, our records show this parcel under HOA jurisdiction. If you have a dispute, please submit it through the proper channels." Proper channels. While bulldozers kept running. Within 2 months, the frame of the clubhouse was up. Within 4, they were pouring the pool. Neighbors started posting photos in the community Facebook group. Marble tile deliveries, imported light fixtures, a bar imported from Italy. $900,000. That's what they were spending. On land they didn't own. And here's the twist nobody saw coming. I hadn't even shown them the strongest piece of evidence yet. I had something buried in a filing cabinet at my grandfather's old house that would end this entire situation in one conversation. But I wasn't ready to use it. Not yet. I wanted to see how far they'd go first. The clubhouse was ready to open in 6 weeks. Save the date invitations went out to residents. A ribbon-cutting ceremony was planned, with the mayor's office even invited for a photo op. I showed up to an HOA board meeting to try, one more time, to resolve this like a reasonable person. I was met with laughter. One board member actually said, "Sir, we've already spent almost $1 million. You think we're tearing it down because you found some old paper in a drawer?" That old paper was about to become the most expensive mistake of their lives. Carol leaned back in her chair, arms crossed. "Daniel, I understand you're upset, but legally, this project moves forward." The board voted unanimously. I asked her one question: "Carol, do you have the original 1998 county recorded deed, or just your internal HOA paperwork?" Silence. She didn't have it. Because it didn't exist. Not the way they claimed. I stood up from that meeting more determined than ever. They had spent $900,000 building on a foundation of lies, literally and legally, and I had exactly what I needed sitting in a fireproof box at home. The ribbon cutting was in 6 weeks. I planned to be there, uninvited. The week before the grand opening, I drove to the county clerk's office and requested a certified copy of the original deed, the real one, filed in 1998, transferred to my grandfather, then legally inherited by me in 2021. Notarized, recorded, airtight. I also discovered something the HOA never expected me to find. Their own attorney had sent an internal memo, accidentally CC'd to a resident, admitting there was some ambiguity in the parcel's ownership history and recommending they proceed cautiously. They ignored their own lawyer's warning. I had the deed. I had the memo. I had time-stamped photos of the original property line before construction ever began. Everything I needed to end this was in a single manila folder. The grand opening was in 5 days. 200 people were invited. The mayor confirmed attendance. Local news planned to cover it as a community success story. They had no idea what was about to walk through those doors. The day of the ribbon cutting, the clubhouse looked incredible, genuinely stunning. String lights, a jazz trio, champagne glasses lined up on marble counters. Carol stood at the podium with giant scissors, smiling for the cameras. I walked in through the front doors, deed in hand, camera crew from the local news still rolling. "Excuse me," I said, loud enough for the whole room to hear. "Before you cut that ribbon, everyone deserves to know something." Carol's smile flickered. "Daniel, this isn't the time, this is the perfect time," I said, holding up the certified deed. "This clubhouse, every wall, every tile, every light fixture is sitting on land legally owned by me, not the HOA. Me, gasps, whispers, phones came out. I handed the deed to the local reporter standing nearby. She scanned it in seconds. The same second, Carol's face went pale. "This is a mistake," Carol said, voice shaking. "No," I replied. "The mistake was spending $900,000 without checking who actually owned this property. Security guards invited just in case didn't move because there was nothing to move against. I hadn't broken any law. They had." The mayor quietly stepped away from the podium. The jazz trio stopped playing. The grand opening became a shutdown. Within 48 hours, the county issued a cease and desist on all use of the property. The HOA's attorney resigned less than a week later, reportedly furious they'd been ignored. Carol was removed from the board in an emergency vote just 3 weeks after the incident. Residents were stunned to learn nearly $1 million of shared community funds had been spent without a real legal review of ownership. I ended up settling with the HOA, not for money, but for full transfer of the completed clubhouse into my name, structure included. Every marble tile, every imported light fixture. They built me a $900,000 building. For free. Sometimes karma doesn't just win. It sends an invoice. But that wasn't even the craziest HOA story I've covered. Next week, I'm sharing one where a board tried to seize someone's entire house over a $40 fine. You will not believe how far they went.